off, you weirdo. What are you doing? Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Blaze. I am your host Simon, and in this one we've got, this is actually an idea from me. On this channel we make suggestions, we get them written up and then we learn it together. If you've got a suggestion for a video, you know what to do, leave it in the comments below, upvote the ones you like, and chances are we will make those. Obviously this channel is called Business Blaze, so please make it business related. Today, the Victoria's Secret problem. This was something that I really wanted to look at because it's this interesting lesson in business that you see happen over and over again, and I promise it's not just a business lesson, it's a really interesting story. But basically, Victoria's Secret, they revolutionize an industry and then they fall behind and it kind of all goes badly wrong. Obviously, Victoria's Secret still exists today, but they are really falling behind. In this video, you're going to find out why. Thank you to Lawrence for putting this script together. I didn't write this, I never do. I just go through it and sort of react to it. It's what we do here. So let's get into it, shall we? Ask anyone on the street where you should head if you're looking for some quality lingerie, and 9 times out of 10 they will point you to the nearest Victoria's Secret. I really feel like... Hi, I'm looking for some high quality lingerie. Could you point me to a store? And they'll just be like, F off, you weirdo. What are you doing? Since the 1990s, Victoria's Secret has been one of those household brands that everyone thinks is bulletproof. Not literally, I hope. Sexy stuff for a sex-driven society. How can that possibly fail? Well, in many ways, as you are about to find out. But it turns out America's most loved naughty time store is not quite as bulletproof as we all thought. Sales in recent years have seen a drop. Customer complaints about garment quality have risen, and the company's leaders are now having to look at making some serious changes if they want to stay above water. So what exactly is the problem? To understand why Victoria's Secret is such a mess, we kind of have to understand the brand and its full background story. So let's start at the beginning. The company was founded in 1977 by this dude called Roy Raymond. Roy's vision, it was actually pretty interesting. He didn't set out to sell naughty underwear to women. His original idea was to create a store that attracted men. You see, Roy was frustrated by his awkward experiences buying lingerie from department stores. And this I can relate to. Like, I feel awkward just that, like, I walked into a women's store the other day. I don't know if you have it in, I know most people who watch this are probably Americans. We have this store called Mango. I walked into a Mango the other day because it sells men and women's clothing. And I walked around looking for ages for the men's section, just walking around the women's section to realize it was a Mango that only sold women's clothes. And I felt awkward, let alone when I walk into the lingerie section, let alone when I actually buy something. Roy was onto something here. So he thought it would be cool if there was a women's underwear store that was actually designed to welcome men. Yes, very good. Roy took inspiration from Victorian England. I feel like Victorian England is not exactly known. I feel like when I imagine Victorian England, I imagine prudes. But there we go. Maybe this is just a misconception. During this period, English high society saw a massive surge, apparently it is, they saw a massive surge in women's lingerie. Mr. Raymond had great success with his first store. He was able to open further stores and even launched a shopper's catalog. In 1982, a retail mogul called Les Wexner acquired Roy's 6 stores, the Victoria's Secret brand and the catalog, all for $1 million US. That was in 1982, which is about $2.6 million today. So I mean a good amount of money, but not a ton of money, especially when we get to some of the, the billions that are later mentioned in this video. Still, Roy was probably pretty happy with his $1 million. Now Les, the dude who bought it, he had a different vision in mind for the brand. He didn't want to focus on men, which is odd. I thought this was kind of the whole point of Victoria's Secret, that it is appealing to men rather than, I mean, to women, but to men to shop there. Anyway, he wanted a luxury lingerie brand that brought women in the US great quality lingerie at affordable prices. As we all know, Mr. Wexner, he was right on the money. I mean, so was the original guy. Roy started the company, he came up with a great idea, he built it a bit, Les comes along and he takes it to a different level. They're both right. By the early 1990s, Victoria's Secret had become the most dominant lingerie retailer in the US, running 350 stores nationwide and selling over $1 billion worth of playtime gear. Okay, so Roy was right. $1 billion a year after, what, 10 years? Yeah, Les was more right. In 1995, we saw the first of the annual Victoria's Secret fashion shows. I've seen clips of these. The very first of these events almost broke the internet because it was in 1995, but it was actually 4 years later. I looked this up when the first live stream occurred. I love kind of like the history of the internet and all of this stuff, and it was quite surprising to me that in 1999 you could actually watch this. It was on broadcast.com. I went to see what broadcast.com is. Now it just redirects to the Yahoo homepage, so I assume it's like a defunct Yahoo property. Anyway, in 1999 they did broadcast it, and it was available to most people, so saying it broke the internet is kind of a little bit of hyperbole, but some people couldn't access it because there was too much demand, and the demand was like a few million people. It's kind of a joke by today's standards. Like, what does YouTube have, like 1 billion hours of watch time a day? I think, and that was like several years ago. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, Victoria's Secret pioneered new product lines. Their fashion shows became far more elaborate and increasingly expensive, with increasingly expensive items being worn by the world's hottest models. All of this was with the idea of driving sales through the roof. It makes sense. I mean, you see beautiful people wearing clothes and you want to buy their clothes because they'll make you beautiful. That's how it works, right? In 2006, Sharon Jester Turney became, that's a great name, Jester, became the CEO of the company. Unlike the guys before her, she favored a more high-end look. Interesting. It's like two guys' perspectives, making, like it says here, she moved the brand away from the hooker looks of the 90s and made Victoria's Secret more of a high fashion leader that stood for quality and empowerment. You can see, like, definitely a women's touch there. Under Sharon's 9-year reign, Victoria's Secret success exploded. Guess that's the result of that non-hooker look. Also, it exploded before from, like, he bought it for $1 billion 10 years later. He bought it for $1 million 10 years later. It was worth $1 billion. But still, under Sharon, she was right as well. Increased 70% up to $7.7 billion. Not messing around. It seemed the brand could do no wrong, especially with Sharon at the wheel. The thing is, in 2016, Sharon very suddenly dropped the reins. She stepped down overnight, and Wexner, he was the second guy, the guy who bought it for $1 million, he took over as interim CEO. Now, he had done a good job before, so I imagine this would bode well, but you will see. This is where things started to turn. As soon as Wexner took control, he started to make some pretty major changes to stamp his new direction on the brand. Back to those hooker clothes. Not really. He stopped the catalogue, put an end to swimwear, and ceased the brand's move into apparel. Apparel. This is one of these words that always trips me up on pronunciation. I always pronounce it apparel, but it's apparel, I think, or who cares? He wanted to focus everything on what the brand was best known for: lingerie and evening-based clothing. He split the company into 3: Victoria's Secret Lingerie, Victoria's Secret Beauty, and Pink. So it seems he wanted to do everything, but he just wanted, like, to focus the main brands on lingerie, which makes sense, like a return to core competencies. Although I wonder about this, because does it really make sense? I mean, it was going really well. Do you really need to change anything? Okay, so I know what you're, thank you, Lawrence. I know what you're thinking. Why change a good thing? Who knows? Oh, great. So there's not really a reason. Maybe there is a reason if Lawrence had dug a bit deeper, but, you know, this video's, 15 minutes long? Time is short. Sometimes men just think they know better. He didn't. He did before. I feel it's a bit unfair to be like, yeah, Les is an idiot. He did grow it. He did buy it for $1 million, and then it was making $1 billion in revenue like 10 years later. Les is clearly not an idiot, but maybe he did think he knew better. Sales began to fall drastically. All through the late 90s and early 2000s, Victoria's Secret was at the forefront of the market, spearheading game-changing ideas and being one step ahead of all the competitors. But since 2016, the brand has been behind and slow to keep up to major changes in the market. Alright, so what changes? Well, I'll tell you. The shift from push-up bras towards sports bras is one example of a major trend that Victoria's Secret was slow to react to. The huge surge in body positivity is another vital fashion trend that the brand has been slow to keep up with. Falling asleep at the wheel has let other brands like Ori and Lively swoop in and snatch up a share of the market, which is always going to end in tears for the almighty market leader. This is the thing, like, these changes that they keep making, they need to make these, and it seems like now they're not really keeping up. I don't know any of these companies, like Lively or Ori, but I guess, you know, that's me. Between 2016 and 2018, the brand's share in the US, it dropped from 33 to 24%. I mean, have you ever been to Pink? That's Victoria's teen store. They mainly do, it's a bit weird, like Victoria's Secret for teenagers. They mainly do PJs and the odd sports top that's a bit too cool for real sports. Okay, that makes sense. That's less weird. Pink has been struggling, and it's clear for everyone to see. When a premium brand resorts to running constant sales, you know something's up. Indeed you do. Even the annual fashion show is starting to get abused for being outdated and too focused on picture-perfect models. That's true. I'm not really... the clips I've seen, it's not like they're doing these, what was it called? Image conscious or body conscious or body positivity. It's not really what's going on at Victoria's Secret, is it? The fashion shows were all led by a guy called Ed Razek. In November of 2018, Razek said in an interview with Vogue that he didn't think transsexuals had a place in the catwalks because the show is meant to be a fantasy. Oh, Ed, you're gonna get in trouble for that. His remarks pissed off a lot of people, what a surprise, and many openly called for him to be cut from the roster, but he wasn't. Again, like Victoria's Secret, I feel, you know, even just for the optics of that, you gotta fire that dude. So how does Victoria's Secret recover from so many boo-boos? Well, we're let to see if it can. John Mayers took over as CEO at the start of 2019. Sales were down to 3% in 2018. That doesn't seem too bad. And the brand, although it is a pretty good market, like this is a luxury product, the economy is pretty much booming. We're making this video in 2019. A decline in 3% of sales during an economic boom is not a good thing for a luxury product. And the brand is losing market share to new brands that speak to ladies for all the right reasons. Victoria's Secret brand image is on the verge of being Stone Age. And this is the thing, it started off as, this is what I said at the beginning, it started off as like this new thing, revolutionary, and then, you know, revolutionary of 1980s is like dated of today. Victoria's Secret brand image is the verge of being on the Stone Age. Women's attitudes towards beauty and diversity have changed in an instant, and it looks as if Victoria's Secret is just failing to keep up. Take one look at the board of directors, you see the problem pretty much summed up. 12 of them, there are 12 of them, 9 of them are dudes, and Wexner's wife is one of the only 3 women that sit on the board. Right now, these guys are in a desperate race to bring Victoria's Secret back up to speed with what women want. Earlier this year, they hired Hungarian model Barbara Palvin as one of their newest angels, which I think is like what the Victoria's Secret models are called. I don't think that, I know that. She's not really a plus-size girl, but she's also not a size 0, so it's sort of a step in the right direction. At this point, it feels like the sinking of the Titanic. It's a huge beast of a brand that has seen progress to this point, but it's been slow to steer away from the iceberg ahead. Do people really still want to buy great lingerie at great prices? Yes, that's not going to change anytime soon, but do women want to be buying them from a group of old men that think the perfect woman has to be stick thin, white, and as straight as an arrow? The numbers, oh, this is a nice ending, Lawrence. The numbers say, bitch, please. And I think, like, as funny as that ending is, it's like, it doesn't, you know, having demand is only just one part of the equation here. You can have all of the demand you want for lingerie, that is never going to go away, but there's also competition Victoria's Secret, and you need to keep up with the other guys. Anyway, that is Victoria's Secret. That is the problem they are facing. I thought it was an interesting one. I know this one was a bit more businessy than the usual, like, interesting historic stories we take. Just a bit of an experiment we're doing. If you liked it, please do hit that like button below. Subscribe to this channel so you find out when we put out new videos. If you actually want to find out when we do, you need to hit the bell button because that's just the way YouTube works. Suggestions, like I said at the beginning, if you've got suggestions that are business related for this channel, let me know. This was my idea, but I'll get stuff written up from you guys as well, and we can go through it together and learn something. It'll be fun, and I'll see you next time.